Welcome to FreemasonPodcast.com. The current series features selected articles from Mackey's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. I am your host, Jeff Day, past master of Laurel Lodge No. 13, Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Oregon, currently a member of McKenzie River Lodge No. 195, located in Eugene, Oregon.
Today's subject, York Rite. This is the oldest of all the rites, and consisted originally of only 3 degrees. 1. Entered Apprentice. 2. Fellowcraft. 3. Master Mason. The last included a part which contained the true word, but which in Brother Mackey's opinion was disrupted from it by Dunkerley in the latter part of the 18th century, and has never been restored. The rite in its purity does not now exist anywhere. The nearest approach to it is in the St. John's Freemasonry of Scotland, but the master's degree of the Grand Lodge of Scotland is not the master's degree of the York Rite. When Dunkerley dismembered the 3rd degree, as Brother Mackey believed, he destroyed the identity of the rite. In 1813, it was apparently recognized by the United Grand Lodge of England when it defined the pure ancient masonry to consist of 3 degrees, and no more, namely those of the entered apprentice, the fellowcraft, and the master mason, including the supreme order of the Holy Royal Arch. Had Grand Lodge abolished the Royal Arch degree, which was then practiced as an independent order in England, and reincorporated its secrets in the degree of Master Mason, the York Rite would have been revived. But by recognizing the Royal Arch as a separate degree, and retaining the Master's degree in its mutilated form, they to that extent repudiated the York Rite. In the United States, it has been the almost universal usage to call the Freemasonry there practiced the York Rite, but Brother Mackey believed it has no better claim to this designation than it has to be called the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite, or the French Rite, or the Rite of Schroeder. It has no pretensions to the York Rite. Of its first 3 degrees, the Master's is the mutilated one which took the Freemasonry of England out of the York Rite, and it has added to these 3 degrees 6 others, which were never known to the ancient York Rite, or that which was practiced in England in the earlier half of the 18th century by the legitimate Grand Lodge. In all my writings, asserts Dr. Mackey, for years past, I have ventured to distinguish the masonry practiced in the United States, consisting of 9 degrees, as the American Rite, a title to which it is clearly and justly entitled, as the system is peculiar to America, and is practiced in no other country. Brother Hughan, speaking of the York Rite, in Unpublished Records of the Craft, page 148, says, "There is no such rite, and what it was, no one now knows." Dr. Mackey thought that this declaration was too sweeping in its language. Brother Hughan was correct, as Dr. Mackey frankly admits, in saying that there is at this time no such rite. Dr. Mackey proceeds, "I have just described its decadence, but he is wrong in asserting that we are now ignorant of its character. In using the title, there is no reference to the Grand Lodge of All England, which met for some years during the last century, but rather to the York legend, and to the hypothesis that York was the cradle of English Freemasonry. The York Rite was that rite which was most probably organized or modified at the revival in 1717, and practiced for 50 years by the Constitutional Grand Lodge of England. It consisted of only the 3 symbolic degrees, the last one, or the Master's, containing within itself the secrets now transferred to the Royal Arch. This rite was carried in its purity to France in 1725, and into America at a later period. About the middle of the 18th century, the Continental Freemasons, and about the end of it, the Americans, began to superimpose upon it those high degrees which, with the necessary mutilation of the 3rd, have given rise to numerous other rites. But the ancient York Rite, though no longer cultivated, must remain on the records of history as the oldest and purest of all the rites."
If you wish to support this podcast, please share it with others and subscribe by visiting FreemasonPodcast.com. follow at Mason Podcast on Twitter or at Freemason Podcast on Facebook. You may also pledge Freemason Podcast on Patreon. Any amount, however small, is appreciated and allows us to continue producing episodes. Until next time, brethren, keep spreading the cement of brotherly love, relief, and truth.